Gonzaga Bulldogs, number 3 in the nation. They have 28 wins on their resume, only 1 loss. But is Mark Few's squad worthy of that number 1 seed? Find out now on the CI Shark Tank. Our sharks today are college football analyst but passionate college basketball fan Doug Chapman and our college basketball analyst Stephen Bardo. And joining us from Spokane is our Gonzaga insider Tom Hudson. So Tom, I'm going to let you have the floor here. Make your pitch why the Zags deserve that number 1 seed out west.
Well, Shay, any good organization has what? Experienced leadership, and that's what Gonzaga has. Gary Bell Jr., Kevin Pangos, those guys have played in a combined 260 games. They've won 115 together, the most in school history. Oh, by the way, add a guy in Byron Wesley who led USC in scoring last year, who has a knack to score the ball in the paint. He makes big-time plays when it counts. Oh, and by the way, Kyle Wilcher, who's won a national championship at Kentucky, was the SEC Sixth Man of the Year, the most efficient scorer right now in college basketball, just had 45 points on 22 shots. I think those are pretty good reasons for this team to be a number 1.
Well, Tom, that is impressive in terms of personnel, but I'm looking at the conference. I'm looking at the West Coast Conference and the other teams that are vying for a number 1 seed come out of the ACC, the Big 12, the Big East, and the Big 10. Can you tell me why you think they should still get a number 1 seed?
Well, I'll look at 2 things. I think the non-conference strength of schedule sits right at about 16. So Coach Few took his team out and played some pretty darn good competition. The other thing I think you have to look at is if Apple goes into a market where supposedly there isn't any competition and they dominate and they sell a lot of iPhones, wait, the iPhone's a good product. Coach Few's got a good product right now. This is an outstanding basketball team that really is skilled and has a lot of depth and has a lot of toughness. You know, at one point, this team was one of only 2 in the country that was, efficient on offense and defense, top 15 in both categories in the country. So they can do it on both ends of the floor.
Now, Tom, you talked about competition, and against the RPI top 50, the Zags are 4-1. That's impressive, but the teams they're competing against for this number 1 seed have averaged playing 10 teams in that RPI top 50. Tell me why this Zags team is just as deserving or more deserving for a number 1 seed.
Well, and that becomes the great question, I think. And what you look at is it's a team that just keeps winning basketball games. And when people want to break down the numbers and the analytics and they want to, do all of that stuff, sure, it's hard to argue against or for this team. But if you watch this team play and you see what they do and you see how they do it, don't forget the WCC. I'm not going to argue it's the ACC or the Big 12, but I will say, it's a top 10 RPI conference. So Gonzaga has gone out and just won basketball games against some pretty good competition. Not great competition, we'll give you that, but it's a team that if you watch them play, I think you can realize that they're pretty special and belong in the argument for that number 1.
All right, we've heard Tom's case. You guys have had a chance to ask questions and ponder your decision. You buying or you selling the Gonzaga Bulldogs as the number 1 seed?
I'm buying. I think they're number 1 seed. I think they've got one less top 50 RPI win than Wisconsin, who is considered a number 1 seed, so I'm buying.
What do you think, Doug?
I got to sell. I guess I haven't seen enough versus top competition, and last time they were a number 1 seed, they got bounced from the round of 32. I like to look at history sometimes. When I make these decisions, I got to sell. I'm going against my man right here.
Yeah, I'm going to actually buy. I'm going to agree with Stephen here. Who are you going to give it to? Arizona? They have 3 losses as it is, and they were all on the road. So I'm going to give it to the Gonzaga Bulldogs. So Tom Hudson, thanks so much for the insight as always. Stephen, Doug, thank you guys very much. And that'll do it for us here in our Campus Insider studios. We'll see you next time on the CI Shark Tank.